It has been exactly 23½ hours since we glued up this bow blank. All right, there we go. That is going to be our level of setback here. I'm going to try and put a quick measure on it. Three inches. So this is straight out of the mold. Haven't even taken the tape off the back. All I've done is take the wraps and the plastic off. And here's where we start. So you'll see the reflex. Remember, I got 3 inches of reflex. And as I give very initial bends to this bow, you will see that right there, that belly piece is flat again. So we are tillering a perfectly straight staved bow. But I'm already building a lot of pressure from right here to get it any further than that. So the tillering process on these bows, done correctly prior to glue up, is just, there's no difficulty to that tillering process whatsoever. When you allow the actual tiller of the bow to decide what its reflex limb is going to look like. So guys, that is a cautionary tip about like wanting to use molds to glue your bow into to get particular reflexes or shapes to the limbs themselves. But when you let the limb decide what it's going to do based on its reflex and its assigned tiller prior to glue up, it makes the actual tillering process so much easier. Sanded down on its edges. I think if you guys take a look here, minus the pencil lines, you can see that we got a really good glue line right through the power lamb and onto the belly. Can just barely see the transition from power lamb in the glue line here. This side is almost imperceivable. So check the glue lines all the way up and down the length of the backing. We have a good solid glue up here, so we're not going to experience any issues with this bow, at least in regard to the lamination process. So this is the center of the bow. So this line with a C on it, that is the geographical center of the bow. What we've done is gone 1 inch below geographical center to get the center of our grip. That's what these 2-inch marks are on either side. And what that effectively does is move the whole grip down the bow 1 inch. And that's what that would look like. And the intent here was to get the power lamb evenly distributed from the grip. So when I hold my bow like this, you'll see that the power lamb extends evenly from the top of my grip and the bottom of the grip, effectively leaving that bottom limb 2 inches shorter than the top. So that's what's going on here. The other thing to look at or consider is that it sits right in the crux of your hand. Right here is at geographical center. So the bearing, like the fulcrum of the bearing of the bow, when you pull on the string, should be right here. I got some facets on here. They're going to help me get this thing started on tillering. This is where we're at in terms of floor tiller. So I haven't put a string on this yet. Getting what I would classify as good bend through those limbs. And I have not yet put any string grooves in here. So we'll get started with some string knocks so that we can get on the tillering tree, kind of work with a long string, but I think we'll have we should have this bow braced up here really quick. But here's our initial bends. My thoughts right out of the gate is that it's not bending enough through the grip section, but then again, we put in a power lamb kind of to control that bend to some degree. So the limbs themselves seem to be flexing pretty well. At least so far, so good. I've been letting it sit exactly as it is like this for maybe 5 minutes or so, just to kind of get it in the habit of bending. But I'm going to keep floor tillering and moving down the tillering stick here till we get to a brace height. And if it doesn't give me any tillering reasons to stop, I'm just going to keep on moving until I get there. Had to do just a little bit of tillering correction here on the lower limb. It was quite a bit stiffer than the upper limb, plus taking on a little bit of what I would term a whip tiller, but got that worked out. Some quick removal just through this portion of the limb, and the upper limb has pretty much been in compliance from the get. But here we are at brace. My brace height from the grip is about 6 3/4 inches. And if I go to the top of the power lamb, I'm at 6 3/4 on the upper limb. Bottom of the power lamb on the bottom is about 6 1/2. So I'm taking about a 1/4 inch positive tiller on that bow. When you look down the limbs there, they really seem to be bending pretty nice. So here comes the waiting period. We're going to sweat this out for half an hour. Just in the process of getting it to this point, I lost about a 1/4 inch of setback. So prior to stringing it up just now, we were at about 2 3/4 inch setback. And we'll find out after the sweat-in period here how much of that setback is gone. We have just unbraced it and took a measure here. It is now sitting at about 2 1/2 inches. Oops, there we go. About 2 1/2 inches of back set. So in the process of floor tillering and then sweating it out for its initial tiller at brace height, we've lost about a 1/2 inch of reflex. Now that's newly just unstrung, so it hasn't had the opportunity to actually relax yet. So we may be in a little better shape here probably in 15 or 20 minutes, but I am going to allow it to relax for that period of time. And then we would get back into the tillering process in earnest. It's just breezy enough out here that I can't get my background up. Upper limb is on the left-hand side there, and you can tell just looking at it roll here that both limbs are bending evenly, but that upper limb's really got some give to it in comparison to that lower limb. Notice how it's really running pretty, I don't even know how to describe that. It's not much of a bend, whereas over here we're really taking, a bend, and this is just kind of flat over here. Now the kind of conundrum that I'm dealing with this is that the positive tiller is remaining at about a 1/4 inch. So that would not indicate a weaker or too stiff a lower limb, but it clearly doesn't look right. At 20 inches, about 35 pounds, it'll make it to 22 in its current state. And at 22, we're like right at 40 pounds. So 22 inches, 40 pounds, tracking along to be a hunting weight bow, or at least a pretty stout bow. But that lower limb's gonna need some work. All right, I've really been putting this guy through his paces. Out on the tillering tree now. Took out some mass on the lower limb here to get a little better bend, and it's starting to catch up with the upper limb. Far as positive tiller is concerned, I'm measuring out at about 3 5/8 gap on my lower limb and little over 6 3/4 on my upper. So we've cut that down to about 3/16 of an inch. It is getting dark outside, so my time here is about done for tonight. I was really hoping to get this guy to full draw. I am not far off, but it's going to take. I'm going to have to get after this for another day. So anyway, so it's been a day, or I let this thing rest overnight rather, and we're going to get started on tillering again today. The amount of setback after being given a night to rest is actually 2.5 inches fat. So it's just over 2.5 inches to get started here. And show you what a difference a day makes here. We got a little bit of snow, but we're going to go ahead and set up the tillering tree and see if we can't get this thing to full draw. We've got that top limb on the right hand side this time. Here we go. We're going to draw. Last time around, or yesterday, we were able to draw it to 24 inches. It's feeling pretty stout at 22, pulling 39. Gonna work this in. There's 24. We'll stop at 24 and see where we're at. 44 pounds. And really we're looking at the bend of the limbs here. So we want to make sure that the arc is looking good before we keep moving down the tillering tree. And we've been struggling with that left limb or the bottom limb kind of keeping up with the top limb here. We seem to be doing okay. We're getting to 25 at this point. Just keep exercising her down to 26. So this goes pretty quickly. And tiller seems to be in good shape. So we're hitting 26 here. Oh my scale is turned off. Oops. All right, at 26 inches, I'm gonna measure here, 47 pounds, almost 48. So we can expect about a 50-pound bow out of this guy, or gal, however you decide to gender your bow. Gonna keep exercising her here. Oh. My cable's the one bouncing this camera around, sorry. So let's see here. Feeling pretty good. Might need a little bit of work, right? Maybe in here. This limb is continuing to bend pretty well. This right here kind of concerns me. I might try and take a little bit off right in here. That lower limb is quite a bit shorter than the upper. And actually, if you look at it, when we come back to brace, it looks like we've got a lot of positive tiller here. We're gonna get a measure on that and see exactly where we're at. We might have a real stiff lower limb. Right at 7 inches string gap here on the top limb, and 6 3/4 on the lower, maybe even just a tad more, which actually tells me that the that we're about right on positive tiller. I'm still going to do just a little bit of removal right here on this lower limb. It's feeling good though, and really observing in the light here to make sure that I haven't got anything in the way of any compression fractures starting or anything like that. Everything seems to be in pretty good shape. So I'm going to take a little bit of wood here, and I will meet you back out at the tillering tree. All right, guys, it took just a little bit of material off right here. You can kind of see the mark here and here. So just a little bit of material right in there. I have not yet exercised this bow since then, so we're going to draw it down to the draw length that it was pulling before, a couple 15 or 20 times. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 19, 20 times to 26 inches here. And is definitely bending a little more right over there. No doubt about that. 26 inches here. I seem locked out at 4 pounds. 26 inches. We are 48 pounds. So here we go. The tiller looks really pretty good, guys. I'm looking at this with my critical eye. We got pretty good bend all the way along the length of both limbs there. I'm pretty happy with that. Which means at this point, we just keep exercising it on down to 28 inches. All right, so we're pulling to 26. I'm gonna go a couple times here now on down to 27. We are at 27 inches. And you'll notice that that grip area is staying pretty well static. And there is a reason behind that. that we'll address with the next video, provided that this doesn't break, but I don't foresee that happening. Let's see where we're at 27 here. 51 pounds. So we're actually getting a pretty good draw weight out of this bow. Pretty impressive for a bow that's barely an inch wide. All right, hitting 28 inches here. So we've hit 28 about 6 or 7 times now. And 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Just keep on going. Oh man, my scale turned off. Doggone it. Hate it when that happens. All right, here we go. At 28 inches, we are 52 pounds. Yep, 52 and a half pounds. Pretty good showing here. 28 inches. And that tiller's looking pretty good. On the lower limb, about 2 inches off the grip, pulling right at, well, a little less than 6 7/8. Same spot on the upper limb, we're at 7 inches. So we're talking about 3/16 inch of positive tiller. It looks like it's more, but that's all there is right now. So less than 1/4 of an inch positive tiller. Bow has been drawn to full draw, 28 inches, at least a dozen times now. Here is its back set. We'll get a quick measure on that, and that is like freshly unstrung. Freshly unstrung. Let's see where we are. Remember, we started with about 3 inches. Make sure these tips are lined up at the front of the workbench and at the grip. Just unstrung, we're at 2.5 inch, or at 2 inches even. Now remember, when we got started on this particular tillering session, which has been very short because I have videoed just about every second of it, minus the little bit of time that I took some material off the one limb, it went from 2.5 inches of reflex, having rested for an entire day, to 2 inches drawing or tillering from 24 inches on out to 28 inches. So 4 additional inches of draw length got us to 2 inches of setback, which actually feels just about right for a long bow. 2 inches of setback. It is not too extreme. Looking over these limbs in the light real carefully, and natural light is better than shop light, even though it's starting to get late in the day again. It's almost 3:30 today. Yeah, no compression fractures that I can make out at all. And in fact, if you're able to see, and I don't know if you can see in the light, I still got those facets in place. Not so much on this lower limb, but on the upper limb, we were pretty close to tiller early on. So we're going to have to do a little bit of rounding over on this belly. That may cost us about, 2 or 3 pounds and make this guy about a 50-pound bow at 28 inches when all is said and done. But we made full tiller. And I want to say in the amount of time, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.5, 3 hours of time. Now there's still some fine tuning yet to be done when we peek and tweak, but that's going to happen next week. So guys, thanks for hanging out with me this week. It looks like we have worked fast enough to try and break it, and it in fact survived. And we'll be working on this bow again here in the next day or two and see what we can do as far as getting her shooting and see what kind of performance we're getting out of her. So thanks for dropping by this week, guys, and we'll finish her out next week.